Hello everybody, my name is Currycraft Games and welcome to a very different video. Yes, I'm doing another voiceover video that's in such a short frequency compared to the Juno one. I know, terrifying, isn't it? Today I'm going to be showing you something I've been pondering on for some time. I am going to show one proposed change I would make to each and every hero in Overwatch 2. Please be advised that all of these proposed changes are only theoretical. I would never say add this to the main game as of right now. If I knew how the workshop works, I would make a custom game session for people to try and experiment with this with, but I'm bad at coding, so that ain't gonna fly. The format for how I'm going to be doing this video is going to be simple. We're going to start with the tank class, and the support class, and then lastly the DPS class. Due to the DPS class having the most characters in it, I would like to spend a particularly good bit of time going into stronger details over them. That's where most of my changes are probably what's going to give me the most hate for this video. So I'm putting it at the very end so people can get mad at me later in the video. Gotta get that viewer retention, am I right? Also, if any Overwatch content creators are reacting to this, hi. First up, we're going to have the tank changes. I'm not going to be touching the tank passive in particular. I might do that for a one passive I give to every hero video. I think that'd be nice. First up, we have D.Va. D.Va I am dividing into two different changes. I'm going to make one change on Toki and one change on D.Va herself. For Toki, I am having the fusion cannon's rate of fire decreased by 5%, while also increasing the damage per pellet by 1. Gonna make it similar DPS, I hope, but at the same time, math is not mathing right now, can't do the mental math. Next change is to D.Va herself in pilot form. She's going to be losing the tank passive and gaining the DPS passive, because I personally believe she should not be as mobile as Toki while being able to live a point-blank shotgun to the face. Next up, we have Doomfist. I am bringing back the damage ramping for Seismic Slam, the max 125 like the original Slam did, but I'm not keeping any of the CC that it has. It's gonna make Slam more impactful if Doomfist is able to get somewhere high up for it, but in normal gameplay where he is on the front lines, it shouldn't affect much. I'm not sure. For Junker Queen, her change is going to be that using her shout within 3 meters of an enemy briefly deafens them for the next 3 seconds. They're going to have a constant ringing in their ears, making it hard for them to hear the environment around them. Next up is everyone's favorite Samoan man, Malga. Chain guns have infinite ammo during Kate's fight again, but the guaranteed crits are decreased their multiplier, because I say so. For Orisa, I'm having it so that her augmented fusion driver has ammo again, about 50 per clip. Fortify will still grant infinite ammo during the duration of Fortify, but she will be firing 25% slower. Ramatra's Void Barrier size will be increased by 10%, and the duration is doubled to 8 seconds, with the cooldown now being 15 seconds as well. Next up is Reinhardt. Oh boy, is this going to be a change. Earth Shatter's effects will now be scaled based on how far Reinhardt is falling while in Earth Shatter, making it so that trying to juggle Rein while he is falling is a detriment to the enemy team. It's going to have up to a 300% charge. I'm just using that as a sort of placeholder for this because I'm not sure how it's going to be. From 100% charge to 150% charge, it's going to be the same level as Shatter. From 151% to 200%, the area of effect that Shatter has is now a 30-meter cone instead of the 25 meters that it was. From 201% to 250%, Shatter's damage is increased by 20%. This also implies for anyone directly hit by Reinhardt's hammer from Shatter as well. From 251% to 299%, the area affected by Earth Shatter is increased to 35 meters. And lastly, if you get the full 300% charge, damage bonus is increased to 25%, the stun is increased by 1.25 seconds from the standard duration, and the area affected by Reinhardt's Shatter is now a 35-meter semicircle in front of him instead of the normal cone. It can climb over walls, but it cannot affect you if you're standing on top of the payload or vehicles. Next up, we have Roadhog. This is another rather questionable change. Feel free to discuss it in the comments. Comments are good for the YouTube algorithm. I have increased the full duration of Take a Breather to 1500 total heal. But Take a Breather now is reduced healing to 130 health per second, with the damage mitigated increased to 50%. Take a Breather's recovery time has been reduced to 1.75% per second. But Roadhog can use health packs to recover his breather meter. Half of the health pack's healing is converted into resource meter for the breather. Hog will not be able to use his breather until the resource meter is at 30% if he fully drains it. I mainly added this change in particular to Roadhog because I feel he needs some sort of alternative way to recover breather, because especially down here in the Metal Ranks, man, people do not conserve resources on Hog at all. It's bad. It's really, really bad. Next up is Sigma. Enemies damaged by a creation or the gravitic flux have increased gravity for the next 3 seconds, making it harder for them to jump, or in Farah or Mercy's case, fly away after being hit by it. Next up we have Winton. Jump Pack can now deal headshot damage if Winton lands directly on an enemy. The crit multiplier for this is going to be 1.5x as well, because I think 100 damage for just landing on top of someone is a bit much. Next is Wrecking Ball. Wrecking Balls is going to be a bit weird, because the way I want this to work and how I believe it might work in-game is 2 different things. I want it so that enemies knock back into walls when Wrecking Ball is at max velocity receive an extra bit of damage when they hit a wall, similar to when people get slammed into walls by Empowered Punch or Orisa's Javelin. No like stun or anything, just an extra bit of damage if they get slammed into a wall. And last up for the tanks, we have Zarya. Graviton Surge is affected by how much charge the particle cannon has. Anything below 50% duration is the standard duration of Graviton Surge. From 50 to 80%, it increases the duration by 25. And from 80% up, the duration is increased by 60%. But, as a downside, the particle cannon will lose all of its charge when firing off the Graviton Surge if it's above 50%. And that's it for the changes on tank. Please let me know if you like these changes or absolutely hate them. Because, like I said, I don't have a workshop code experience, or else I would make this in-game for people to use and experiment with so I could gather data on it. Alright, now we're on to the support changes. First up, we have Ana. Ana's change is going to be that all scope shots with the biotic rifle will instantly heal allies for 20 health, as well as the 70 healing over time it already has. Enemies hit by the scope shots from Ana's biotic rifle receive an instant 10 damage with 60 damage over time. It's the same as damage output as the current Ana, just with a little bit of instant damage in case she needs it. With this, however, her tracer rounds linger for an extra 10th of a second or so. Next up is Baptiste. Baptiste was a bit of a weird one. I couldn't think of anything for the longest time, so I decided to go with that Exo Boost jump height is increased by another 10%, while the velocity of it is decreased by 10%, making it so that he is in mid-air for a bit longer, making it easier to track him. On to Brigitte. With Brigitte, I'm having it so that any elims she gets with a whip shot reduces the cooldown by 50%. This is a bit of a major change, but at the same time it would help with Inspire uptime, and since I am stuck the entire season playing Brigitte on support, I would greatly appreciate it. On to Iari. Iari, I'm having it so that her solar energy resource meter is increased by 30%, and that her solar energy will recharge 50% faster when outdoors, but 30% slower when deliberately indoors. What I mean by deliberately indoors is, I mean if she's under, say, like a pavilion or a bridge, it will have the standard energy resource charge that it has now, but when she is out in the sun, it'll increase it by 50%, and when she's in a building like the second point of Gibraltar, it's going to be 30% slower. I'm having this change in particular for Iari because she is a solar hero. She's the sun. So I was saying, give her a bit of solar power. Make her like a solar panel. Be kind of funny. Next up is Juno, our newest hero to the game. I wasn't thinking about giving her a change to begin with, but I decided to just give her something because I think it'd be a bit interesting to see how this works. For Juno, her Medi Blaster and Pulsar Torpedo's effective healing on allies is increased by 50% on allies below 30% HP. I thought of this change because I feel her healing output is not the best unless she is using her orbital satellite. I don't know, that might just be me thing. She feels like a weirder version of Lucio, but Lucio's gimmick is can't stop, won't stop, so I was thinking of this change for Juno in particular, just to try and help her out with allies that are in critical health range. Alright, time for Little Miss Sunshine, the game's poster child, Kiriko. Her change is that she is removed from the game. Sorry, just wanted to get that off my chest because I am sick and tired of seeing her effectively every game on the enemy team. It is rather annoying. Kiriko's actual change is simple. Her kunai damage is reduced to 50 on a body shot, and her healing Ofuda is increased to 15 per talisman instead of 13 because I said so. Next up, we have Life Leader. Life Leader. I am adding back the Parting Gift passive for him. But I'm going to be tweaking it somewhat so that it's not just a let's give a Genji who dives the backline an additional bonus health so they can keep diving. The reworked Parting Gift is going to be working similar to Ana's Nade, but a weaker version of it that only affects a single target. If an ally is able to pick up the Parting Gift, it'll grant them a 30% increase to all ally healing sources for the next 5 seconds. But if any enemy is unlucky enough to pick up the Parting Gift, they are antied for the next 2.5 seconds. I think Parting Gift was a really cool concept of an ability. It's just it got pretty much ripped from the game immediately because of its unhealthy game balance. Reason why I was thinking about we do this. Give it a bit of flair to it. Up next is Brazil's top artist, Lucio. Any environmental kills that Lucio obtains, the Funny Frogman's Sonic Amplifier automatically is reloaded. Sure, this is a buff to the Reddit Lucios of the world, but at the same time, there are occasional moments where they will nerf the ever-living snot out of Lucio's boot, making it harder for him to get the environmental kills needed to give it the automatic reload. Next, we have the angel herself, Mercy. I decided to make it so that she gets a 20% self-damage boost during Valkyrie, in case Mercy has to use it to get away and she has someone like Pharah trying to shoot her in the sky. The penultimate support change goes to Moira. Quick melees applied to allies will grant them a small burst of healing that consumes 5% of her biotic energy. But quick melee damage on enemies recovers 5% of her biotic energy, so she can just start slapping people. I just thought it'd be funny if she just slapped the snot out of someone. That's the only reason why I decided to add this change. And last on the list of supports, we have the monk himself, the Canta Zenyatta. I decided to make it so that Orb of Destruction's charge volley's projectile speed is increased to 100 meters per second. Because if he is charging up for such a powerful attack, I would assume it would travel just a little bit faster than a standard throwing of an orb. That's just something I thought of, though. And that's it for the support class. These changes, I know, aren't as grandiose as some of the tank changes, but I assure you, this next batch of changes is going to be on that same level as the tank's level of absurdity. And last but not least, we have the damage category. Just a quick heads up before I go into the damage changes. I am adding one quote-unquote universal change to sniper characters. They are all going to have reverse damage fall off. What this means is mainly for Widow because she is the one true sniper character, but it also applies to Ashe and Hanzo. If they have a full charge on their gun and they shoot you with a headshot and you are pretty much right in their face, you will not lose your head. You're pretty much getting tickled by a low power shot, essentially. Alright, down to the actual DPS changes. First up, we have Ashe. Ashe's change is that the Viper's damage is increased by 15% for any enemy she is shooting that is actively on fire. I decided to make it on fire instead of just general CC control because I think that would be a bit too much to have 15% extra damage on anyone affected by Mei's slow. Next up we have Siege Automaton E54, Bastion. I've decided to reintroduce Configuration Tank as an ability for him. granting Bastion the ability to change into his tank form from Overwatch 1, granting him increased movement speed and explosive rounds for the next 10 seconds. This will share the same cooldown as Configuration Assault, so you can't just immediately swap from one into the other. One downside is, though, that Configuration Tank will not be affected by the Ironclad Damage Resist passive, because I think that would be a bit too much. On to Cassie's change. I was just going to make it so that Hinder didn't exist, but since the devs already did that for me, I decided to make it so that Deadeye's max damage, if he's charged it up for the entire duration, is increased to 1800 instead of 1560. Just so that Ramatras in block cannot just live Deadeye. I've seen a clip of that floating around and I think that was a bit too much. For Echo, I'm having it so that while duplication is active, she takes the same passive as whatever she's copying. AKA, if she copies a Diva, she'll have the tank passive. If she copies a Lucio, she'll get in the support passive. Stuff like that. Just because I think it'd be a little more interesting to combine alongside her faster ult charge buildup while she is a duplicated hero. This is a Shimada Cyborg, Genji. For Genji, I've decided to make it so that Dragon Blade's duration is paused by half a second whenever he gains a kill with Dragon Blade. I was originally going to have it make it similar to Ramatra's Annihilation, but I decided to make it so that it only pauses the duration for a little while when he receives a kill, just to make it a bit more interesting, and so it's not just infinite Blade Genji until he dies. Onto the other Shimada brother, we have Hanzo. Hanzo I decided to make so that Storm Arrow has an alt fire option. This alt fire option allows Hanzo to fire all 5 of the Storm Arrows at once, like a miniature scatter. But it's not dealing any headshot damage, and if a hero is hit with a direct body shot from the alt fire and it's unable to hit a wall or the floor, it's only going to count as 1 arrow. So they just won't explode and scatter if they get hit by it. Next up we have Junkrat. Junkrat's change is rather simple. Frag Launcher's ammo is increased by 20%, bumping it up from 5 ammo per clip to 6. I'm mainly doing this because during the pickable passive game mode, I was playing a lot of the 6 ammo Junkrat and I found it very fun. So I decided to just give him this one change. Maze is a little unoriginal. I've been seeing this floating around a lot, so I decided to just add it to this list anyhow because I really didn't know what to do for Mei. For Mei, shooting allies with their endothermic blaster will extinguish some of any fire damage they are currently being inflicted with. This will be good against the increased damage bonus that Ashe has. It will stop that, as well as keeping Mauga from getting his guaranteed crits. Up next we have Pharah. Pharah, I am basically redesigning how her rocket launcher works. Her direct hit damage and her explosion damage are now no longer going to be combined into one big chunk of damage. Instead, it's going to be a case where the direct is a certain amount of damage, and the splash, which cannot be calculated alongside the direct. So if you get hit by a direct, you're not taking both the direct and the explosive splash damage to it. Say I keep the rocket launcher's damage how it is and have it be 120 on a direct instead of the 40 plus 80 explosives. It's now just 120 direct hit, and then it will be 60 damage for the splash. With this little retool to Pharah's rocket launcher, I'm now going on the actual change I want to make for it. I'm giving it damage fall off. What I mean by this is that after a set distance, let's say 25 meters, the direct hit damage of the rocket launcher is reduced by 30%, and the splash will still remain half of the direct hits damage. And then after 40 meters, the direct damage is dropped once again down to half damage, and then the splash is going to be a hard cap of that as well, but it cannot go under 20 damage. What I mean by this is, say the direct hit is doing about 30 damage at 50 meters, the splash cannot go under 20 meters, or not 20 meters, 20 damage per splash. With that potential word vomit of an explanation out of the way, let's get on to Reaper's change. The Reaper, I've decided to make it so that Wraith form grants increased jump height while he's using it, just to make it more similar to that of the cinematics, where he's able to basically fly without actually flying. Decided to give him this change just so he's able to get to certain positions he was unable to originally without needing to use a shadow step, so he can have a shadow step in case of emergencies. Up is Sojourn. For Sojourn's change, I'm going to have it so that if she hits an enemy while in Power Slide, they take a small bit of damage, say 10 damage, and they are hindered for 1.5 seconds. I decided to make this change since it looks like she is going in for a leg sweep when she's doing this, so why not make it so she's actually sweeping the legs. Next change we have on the list is Soldier 76. This change I decided to make it so that his Helix rockets cooldown is reduced by 20% while in Tactical Visor, allowing him to get a good bit of burst damage in if the visor decides to lock onto a tank. Next up, we have some Symmetra. For Symmetra's change, I am having it so that you are able to press Alt Fire and set up one half of your teleporter at your spawn point. Keep in mind, while doing this, the teleporter is on a 5-second cooldown. It's just mainly to allow it so that your allies are able to get back to you quickly if most of them get taken out via a team wipe or a wave respawn. Up next is the main change that made me decide to make this video in the first place. We have Torbjorn. Torbjorn's change is rather simple. I'm having it so that his turret health is changed to have 150 health and 75 armor. So the same quote-unquote health as his main turret does now, just with armor instead of a third of its health. With this change, however, I am having it so that Molten Core upgrades the turret to level 3 for the next 15 seconds. I decided to bring back the level 3 turret because I felt like it would be nice to have in case Torbjorn's lava placements are subpar. Level 3 turrets will have 150 health and 150 armor, bringing it up to 300 each. Up next is the original poster child herself, Tracer. Her change is another rather simple one. I've decided to increase her Pulse Blaster ammo to 50. I decided to do this instead of just changing up her damage again because Blizzard are changing her damage values every other patch, it seems like. So let's just go with a nice simple ammo increase. Venture's change, I'm having it so that I'm bringing back some of their direct impact damage to Clobber. Clobber's impact damage is now increased to 50, with the damage over time reduced to 20. It is the same 70 damage total, but with more of an oomph instead of just a lingering effect. And last up on our list of DPS changes, I have the Widowmaker. I decided to make it so that her grappling hook is akin to that of Wrecking Balls. It will allow Widowmaker to hang in a certain spot for a short time, about 20 seconds or so, allowing her to get to ideal sniper spots that she might not have been able to get to before and see down certain lines of sight she originally could not unless she was in midair. However, if she receives any damage during the course of her being attached to a certain spot for the next 20 seconds, she will automatically be disconnected from the grapple gun. And with that, that is one potential change I would give to every character in Overwatch 2. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and ring the bell for more. I'm going to be doing a bronze review style video for every potential hero that comes out in the future, and I will add a one change I would give to them segment in each of those videos as well. Wait a minute. Why does it feel like I missed someone? I missed someone. I have everyone here on my list. Who could I send? I should have missed everyone. I even went through the hero gallery to make sure I had everyone's changes. Who am I missing?
Catch you later.